Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Connect HQ. And today we've got the lovely Jo.Murray from Orion Consulting. And she's joining us today in the High Quality Connections hot seat. And we have the pleasure of talking to her about something we're all passionate about, which is how do we build high quality connections and make them a reality at work. So welcome, Jo.
Thanks, Marsha. Good to be with you.
So let's start off with question one. And I guess it's the question I ask most people is, how do you introduce high quality connections to your clients in a simple way that makes sense to them?
So I describe high quality connections in two ways. Firstly, I describe them as connections that have three pretty discrete qualities that people have probably seen and felt and experienced in their connections with people. And I'll say, think about a relationship or a connection you've got with someone that really lights you up, and you're glad you've spoken to them, you're glad you bumped into them, you're glad that they're part of your life or part of your world, or that you cross paths with them. I mean, it could be the first time you've met them and you just walk away and think, oh, that was good, that was nice. So it's something that kind of lights you up, makes you feel good or glad to have connected with that individual. And there's two reasons why that happens. The first reason is there is a sense of mutuality. And what I mean by that is that both people have really brought their focus and attention to that moment of connection. So you get this sense of, you see me and I see you, and it really feels like there is a connection between the two of you. The other thing that's often happening in that connection is this sense of positive regard. So not only did they see us, but they saw us in a good way. They saw what was good and great and possible in us, rather than sort of maybe what was wrong with us or what we were worried about. So there's some sort of positive kind of life-affirming and identity-affirming thing that goes on in a high-quality connection. So it lights us up, we really feel seen, and we feel seen in a positive light. And they're the three things that are the hallmark of a high-quality connection. And I'll say to people, think about when that's been so. Think about who does that with you and how much you enjoy their company. And then how that sparks ideas, it sparks creation, and it sparks talking and solving problems, and it actually motivates you to get on and do some more work. So it's something that really lights up and engages people at work.
That's great. That's great. And I think also, Jo, quite often people go into meetings maybe not fully present, not fully thinking, and certainly not always looking for the mutuality and the good in other people. And so sometimes shifting focus is something you need to sort of be aware of maybe before you step into a meeting with someone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's one of the things we can do to really get good at creating high quality connections, is to really take that moment to bring our focus and attention to the conversation and to just show up in the conversation authentically ourselves. And that creates a space for someone else to do that as well. So it does take a bit of thinking to get your head into that spot. There's three other things that I do also talk about with high quality connections, and they're things we know from the research that high quality connections have, and Jane Dutton refers to them as the features of the tie. So I also ask people to think about connections where there is good emotional carrying capacity, and by that we mean you can actually express your emotions. So you can express your emotions of happiness, frustration, sadness, upset, joy, whatever emotion, and the relationship can cope with that. And in fact, you feel somehow better as a result of being able to express that emotion, because you're actually able to show up and be who you are and not have to put on some sort of work face or wall face to go into a meeting. You can just express your emotion. But that also brings a lot of lightness and joy into the conversations people have at work. So you look for that and you see that and how we create that. We also always think about that tensility, the ability of a relationship to stretch and flex, so that our connections with people are different depending on what it is we really need to talk about or what it is we're working on. So sometimes it's short and sharp, other times there is a need to really unpack something and express frustration or upset, and that's okay. The relationship's not damaged as a result of that. And I think people really kind of appreciate that the relationship can bounce back and keep getting stronger over time as a result of that. And the other thing that we look for in a high quality connection is this sense of something out of it that's productive and moves people forward. And Jane calls that connectivity, but it's that sense of, from this connection, something else is triggered and it moves in some direction that's positive. And I get people really thinking about the relationships they've got at work where those features turn up regularly. And then they start to get a sense of, yeah, I've got a whole lot of high quality connections.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I see them as enablers, that connection enables you to move forward and take action. And certainly isn't a blocker or, makes you doubt, what's the next step.
Yeah.
They actually give you the energy and enable you to succeed.
Yes, and so you walk away, and it might be 2 minutes at the water cooler, but you walk away from it thinking, oh, I'm so glad I bumped into that person because something productive came out of it that just spurs you on with your thinking or action.
Yeah.
So
that's great. So then on to the next question, Jo, and this one's about, what's the number one selling point that you share with your clients to help them see the value of building high quality connections in the workplace?
Yeah. So there has to be a need. There has to be something that there's going to be an improvement as a result of, I guess, from working on high quality connections. Most of the conversations I have with my client, 3 features will usually pop up in the conversations around areas that they would like to, either that are problem areas that they really want to attend to or areas where there's opportunities to improve. And those 3 areas are performance. And that can be performance of the organisation overall or teams or individuals, but there'll be a narrative around performance and what we can do to maintain or improve performance. There's often a narrative around engagement and having perhaps concern around the levels of engagement. And again, it's either wanting to increase them or if they're good, maintain them. What can we do to increase or maintain engagement? And the third thing that a lot of clients will hit on is how do I tap discretionary effort? How do I connect with that bit extra that people could do that they want to do and they'll feel good about doing. So my selling point around high quality connections is usually around one of those 3, that if in fact people feel connected and they feel good and they enjoy the workplace that they're in and they feel like they've got connections with colleagues and especially their boss, you are likely to see a more authentic person show up whose performance lifts, who actually enjoys being at work, so their engagement increases. And then if they're given the choice, activating and unlocking discretionary effort seems natural. They want to do a really good job. They like being there. They like the people they're working with. They want to support them. So you actually get all 3. So high quality connections is often a catalyst for breaking open some of the resistance around performance engagement and discretionary effort.
That's great.
So
I love that. The catalyst to and sort of, rather than just sort of say it has this outcome, it has many outcomes, doesn't it? And they're 3 great ones that really resonate with businesses, I think. Yeah,
because it's really acknowledging people, and you hire people for their nuanced individuality and their capacity to bring something special to their work. So when do we do that? Well, we do that when we feel good about ourselves and we feel connected to the people around us. So it's really creating the landscape where people can be at their best.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks, Jo. All right, on to the next question. I'm loving this time together. Feel like it's a high quality connection. I'm totally energized by all your ideas, and I hope everyone else is as well. So what are your 2 top tips for those who want to make high quality connections a reality at work?
I think it gets down to 2 key, I'll call them mindsets, but then it's the way you do show up at work. The first is authenticity and the second is vulnerability. And let me explain a little bit about what I mean. I think the most powerful thing you can do to build high quality connections is just to show up authentically yourself and bring as much of your whole self to each conversation and to work and beyond work as you can. So if you are wanting people to be authentic, to express emotion, to see people in a positive regard, you need to bring some of that, who you are, to work as well. So I think showing up authentically and bringing as much of yourself into the conversation as you can is really important. So high quality connections aren't something you do to people. It's a way of being and a way of operating and a willingness to be in a connection with someone and bringing that regard to the conversation. And so the other thing that I think is a really powerful enabler in there is the notion of vulnerability and how we bring our vulnerability to work. So rather than thinking of work as a battlefield, thinking of work as a place where people connect and that those connections are really life-giving. and being prepared to show our vulnerability. So often people, especially leaders, turn up at work thinking they've got to have all the answers or got to be as perfect as they can be. But I reckon that being your true imperfect self is much more powerful, and having the willingness to show some of that vulnerability. And that might take its form in self-deprecation. It might take its form in showing your emotions. It might take its form in speaking to some of your fears and saying, look, yeah, I'm sorry to have to ask you this, or I don't feel good talking about this, but I think we need to, or I've had this frustration, I see where you're coming from. It can be all of those moments where you just express your humanity with someone else, and then people see us as people, and they connect to us on a much deeper level.
And I think
it's being authentic and being vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think those two go together so well.
Yeah.
You know, they are both needed together, I think. And I certainly notice when people in teams do express that vulnerability, it shifts things very quickly in a relationship, and the connection is suddenly much stronger. I think, and I see that even happen within micro moments of a meeting, when people share stories or probably sort of step out of their comfort zone and feel like this is a risk to share, but I'm going to do it because I feel safe with this team or this person to share.
Yeah, and when they do that, it gives other people the opportunity to respond authentically. But actually, 9 times out of 10, when you do that, it resonates with other people, and other people say, "Yeah, I feel that too," or "I see that too," or even if they don't say anything, internally, their narrative will be, "I'm not alone in this. I'm feeling that way too, and obviously others are." So even if that person doesn't then go and express it, they still have that moment of connection where it occurs to them that the person who has expressed their vulnerability is a lot more like them than they imagined. At the moment, I'm reading Brené Brown's new book on Braving the Wilderness, and I'm just in the bit where she talks about collective grief, and she's talking about the fact that humans seem to be hardwired to express the grief emotions together. And she talks about those moments where tough stuff's happen, and she talked about Sandy Hook and where and when she was when she found out about that, and that she was actually with a group of women, and they all sort of came together and took this opportunity to grieve together. And out of that, they got these really deep relationships and this sense of humanity is connected. And I think that that's actually what high quality connections tap into. They tap into a really fundamentally hardwired notion that we have as humans, that we're connected to other humans. And sometimes that's been depersonalized at work. And these moments of connection remind us that work is a human place, not a mechanistic place. And I think people respond to that.
And I think they do too, and that wasn't always the way we perceived workplaces to be, and so bringing that human element back in is, one of the key contributors of boosting positivity at work and building positive workplaces. So on to the final question for a wrap up. We always like to play. And so the role of play is really important as one of the pathways of building high quality connections. So what's one way that you play or you've seen your clients play in a social way at work that helps bring energy to the team and cultivates positive relationships?
Yeah. So we were sort of talking a little bit earlier. I think there's something to do with the workplace vibe. I walk into a lot of workplaces with different clients, and some workplaces you walk into and you think, these people are comfortable, and these people are really showing up, and the environment often has a lot of triggers that support that. So there'll be lots of opportunities for natural conversation. It'll be relaxed. Often I have to say the environments I walk into that are relaxed and funky. They have lots of central meeting places that people can just sort of interact and collide and just say hi to people and connect with people, so that what they don't express is separation and loneliness, whereas a formal workplace that's quite structured is quite separated and lonely. So lots of things that just allow people to interact in the physical nature of the workplace, are really important, because then they will allow for just casual conversation and a little bit of interaction. And the other thing I always notice is laughter. If you've got an open environment, you'll hear people laughing and you'll see people laughing. The form that play can take, though, is really looking for those moments and opportunities just to relax a little bit. So often that comes in the form of a little bit of self-deprecation from managers or people, sharing funny stories and not taking themselves too seriously, and everyone in the team kind of sharing funny stories and having a laugh, but doing that in a way that's kind of respectful, but equally just acknowledges that funny stuff happens and enjoyable stuff happens at work. So I think there's something to be said for that. There's also something to be said for the physicality of play. So people being able to move and walk, and so walk and meet, walk and talk, I think is enormously underestimated in organisations, because it gets people moving and it gets people interacting and talking and laughing and coming up with ideas and then moving on through the day. So I actually think a lot of it is around the way things are structured, enabling people to just be a little lighthearted and to interact with each other, and particularly interact with people you wouldn't normally interact with. So someone that you bump into while you're getting your morning coffee, and they say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And you have a bit of a talk or a laugh about that, and you walk away thinking, "Oh, I'm glad I ran into them." So it's those little moments of connected, relaxed play. It's not about the work. It might be about the weekend. It could be about anything.
Yeah, great. I remember having a team that was between two levels of a high-rise building, and they were on level 17, and the other half of the team were on level 6. And so they would do a stair challenge and go up and down the stairs and walk up and down the stairs, or do little challenges of saying, "Hey, I've done five levels today. How many have you done?" And it was sort of just a playful way of, while they were moving between places, to stay connected and talk about their physical, "Hey, I'll help you get a little bit fit, and let's take the stairs together as we chat."
Yeah. And I notice, some organisations are quite formal, sort of the word I'd use around their play, in so much as they'll get involved in things like corporate challenge, and they'll have teams of people involved in all sorts of activities. The other great opportunity you have for play is whenever you bring a team together, and obviously the work we do facilitating development activities, there are enormous opportunities for play in that, particularly as a methodology to connect people that don't know each other. And I'm just thinking about, putting people in teams and getting them doing things. And funny enough, I was talking to a client who's just been at a large conference where there are about 300 people who are part of a business, and a lot of them didn't know each other. And they had them in teams of 4 doing like a corporate, like a treasure hunt really, a corporate challenge. But they spent, an hour together, whole lot of conversation, whole lot of connections, and then all those people just kind of hung out together for the rest of the conference. So that just creates those opportunities for people to be energised, have some fun, but also to talk to the people that they're going to work with. And then when you've got a problem, you pick the phone up and you talk to that person, but you already know them because you've had this shared experience. So that's where it looks like play, but it's actually relationship building. Every time it's relationship building.
Yeah, and it's building those connections in each opportunity you have, which then sort of, is the building blocks to then have that sense of ability to go back, as you say, and connect with that person and feel more comfortable with them, that you know them a little bit better than just the work that you're doing together. Yeah,
and I think that's really important.
Yeah, so do I. And I think anyone who's trying to build high quality connections does. So Jo, thanks so much for your time today. It's an absolute pleasure that having you in the High Quality Connection hot seat today and sharing some of your insights from the work that you do with your clients.